Okay, it looks like it's 5 o'clock and it looks like everyone's on Zoom, correct? We got Ryan, Margaret, Vicky, Amber, and Tom,
Yes.
and Crystal, thought I saw Crystal too, right?
Yes.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great. So it's 5:01. I'll call this meeting to order. It looks like it's going to be a really informative and also hopefully short meeting with some great information. The first thing, I don't know if we have any minutes. I checked. I don't think Linda's on, right? Linda, you're not on, right?
We do have minutes.
Oh, we do. Okay.
They were
Can anyone
they were
on
in,
the web?
they were in the on the city website in the minutes folder.
Okay. Is there any way anyone can share, Ryan, or anybody can share that? Mike, can you share that?
I don't think I have them.
Let me see if I can pull them up. Hang on.
Oh, we do. Okay.
I've got them, Margaret. Do you want me to?
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was just going there. Okay, I did have one correction, Dominic, to the minutes.
Okay, good.
In the discussion further down, where we were talking about the DRI area and so forth. And I had made a comment about the scope further down. Okay, stay right there. Hang on. There was an area where I had posted a hypothetical that if my property was in the DRI area, and the way it is framed here, it says,
Here you go, Margaret.
where is it? She said her area would be subjected to sidewalk replacement. What I said was, if my area was subject to replacement through DRI, what are you going to communicate to me? I am actually not in the DRI area. So I was presenting that as a hypothetical for somebody who lives, say, down on Union Street below 3rd, between 2nd and 1st or whatever, or any other area that's in DRI. If they're in that area, what are you communicating to them? So it was a hypothetical, because I do not actually live in the area that will be impacted by those DRI projects. So I would just like that corrected.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll hold on approving them, and then we'll have Linda adjust that for next meeting, if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. And then the next, hold on, I think I lost everyone. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So the next thing would be, thanks to Michael Hoffman, we got an opportunity to bring everyone to the table last week. The mayor, president, common council, code enforcement, Rob Perry, and Peter Bugenal. And I think it was a very productive meeting. So I'll have Michael give an update about the letter that we, the informative letter. I think everyone will enjoy what was the outcome and what we're going to look at next month to kind of approve. So if you want to take it over, Michael, that'll be great.
Sure. So the basic gist of the decision was that we would, that the group that met, so Rob, Peter, the mayor, common council president, myself, Crystal, would work together on creating a designed educational, basically trifold that would be included in the next water sewer bills that would go out sometime mid-late June. So the idea is, in order to sequence that, we would provide a draft of that to the next Sidewalks committee meeting for all of you to review. And then that would, we would take any comments from this committee and incorporate them into that piece to be edited, printed late May, early June, so that those can be included in basically a notice to all, not a notice, but an educational opportunity for all of our property owners to understand their responsibility for maintaining safe sidewalks.
And one of the components I think was a great idea, you know, is that kind of giving maybe some illustrations of what a bad sidewalk kind of looks like. So people are in question, you know, in terms of, you know, what if your sidewalk looks like this, you have an issue kind of deal, because a lot of people are unsure on, you know, what exactly is an unsafe sidewalk. So, and in terms of the cost and manpower, you know, that's going to be DPW can absorb the cost, and you know, Michael's going to do a lot of the graphic, his skills on the graphic side of it. The only thing is for next month, we might have to do an earlier meeting because of the nature of the timing. So we might have to, if Tom can look at the calendar to see, maybe we'll do, you know, a meeting, you know, before the formal, you know, so we can kind of go over the, you know, the letter, or, you know, to kind of see what it looks like. I don't know in terms of, you know, I was thinking, and Tom, Crystal, maybe you can help. I mean, you know, we can look at it, but I don't know if we need like full council approval to send this out, right?
No, wouldn't be necessary.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
I agree with Tom.
okay, so if we kind of just look at it, review it, and give it the thumbs up, we can just, okay, to move forward, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, great. So that's that. And again, I want to thank Michael, and I really look forward to what that looks like. And part of that meeting, and
Right,
Crystal,
Dominic, sorry, before we move on, I raised my hand. This is Margaret.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had some questions about this at our last meeting, and I still have questions.
Okay,
I get that if you're sending out an educational piece, presumably it's going to describe the current state, which is what the current code is and what the current responsibility is. However, there are a lot of things going on in the not so near future, but DRI is one of them, where things will be repaired. There are sidewalks that are part of the ADA piece relating to access to public buildings, where some of that is going to go on. I do not know when I get this letter, and this is hypothetical again, okay, I'm a hypothetical scenario. So I'm a homeowner, or yeah, I'm a property owner, because tenants would not be responsible, it would be the landlord. I'm a property owner, I get this letter. Is this telling me that I'm to go out and fix my sidewalk? Let's say I have one of the ones that looks bad. Is it telling me that I need to go out and fix it? Is the expectation that I will take some action? Or is it just a heads up that I'm responsible? And then down the road, as we think about this, if people go out and take action, as we try to come up with a plan to go through the city and identify the sidewalks that have to be repaired, and let's say we do it on a citywide basis, how do we factor in people who in the latter part of 2022 went out and did repairs? Do they get credit? I'm just really confused as to what we expect to have happen after this is sent out. What is our goal?
I think the goal would be one, to bring everybody up to speed, property owners, of what the code is and what the charter is and what the, you know, the process is, and also for you to have self inspection of your own property. I get what you're saying about the DRI and, the, funding for sidewalks, but that, realistically, that is so far ahead, is it prudent for us to put certain things on hold because of we're thinking we're going to get $5 million. We're thinking, we don't really know what the DRI kind of looks like in some of the sidewalks, and it doesn't affect, a big portion of city. And right. And realistically, I mean, it's in front of you now. You're going to get this informational piece. You're going to take a self-inspection of your sidewalk and say, do I have an issue? I have an issue. Let's move on this issue. To do improvements. I don't think that we should, because of what's in the future, allow property owners not to do corrections, especially if they're severe.
I agree. I'm not suggesting that we postpone things. I'm just trying to figure out, as we come up with a plan, where does this fit in to the larger scale plan of doing a citywide, and I was hoping this wasn't going to be something we might do 10 years from now, but a citywide assessment where we say, okay, every resident in Hudson needs to pay a certain amount per year for maintenance of sidewalks. And hopefully that is something that we would accomplish. And then we would roll out getting things standardized and done in a standardized way. So I'm not suggesting that we postpone. I'm just trying to understand how, if any action occurs, probably won't, but if any action occurs as a result of this, how do we fold that into our larger plan, which, by the way, hopefully is not going to be waiting until DRI is done. I just want to know where it fits in. And I do a self-inspection. Then I get a contractor, I get them to come fix it. Do I have to make sure that it is up to code? Because a lot of the safe sidewalks are not up to code. They're safe, but they're not up to code, specifically with regard to the height of the curb. So am I being asked to come into compliance with the code, or am I being asked to make my sidewalk safe? They're not necessarily the same thing.
I mean, the issue of, no matter what repairs you do, I imagine you're going to have to be up, to code, your own sidewalks. And in terms of, down the road for, the district, we're going to put in there, if you do your repairs, you're going to get a credit rather than, get charged for, if you bring your sidewalk up to code where it doesn't need repair, you would get a credit for any money you put into it. So, I mean, Crystal, you have any thoughts to what Margaret's saying?
Yeah, I didn't want to just jump in. But so the special or the sidewalk district law that had been proposed in the past did have a credit that was worked into it. So depending on when it's passed would be depending on, I guess, how far back you guys would look to apply that credit. I mean, if you don't pass a district and for another 5 years, 2020 repairs probably aren't going to matter as much. With respect to the actual, purpose of it all, it's essentially just reminding everyone what their obligations are under the code and hoping to get some reaction from it. But once they do, they're still going to have to come in and get a permit to do that repair. So there's going to have to be a permit pulled from the city. DPW is going to have to go out there and do an inspection before they close out the permit. And I know that there's going to be conversations between DPW and code enforcement on that front as well. So there's definitely going to be an inspection process in place with any repairs that happen from this.
Crystal, I've had sections of my sidewalk repaired in the past and nobody ever inspected it after I repaired it. Just saying.
And understood. I'm just saying if there's a permit pulled, there's usually a process in place to close that permit out, which usually requires an inspection to make sure everything was done properly.
And so coming back to my first point, safe versus compliant with code, they're not the same thing.
It's going to have to be compliant with our city code unless there is some sort of provision in place that would get them grandfathered in. And honestly, from a property owner standpoint, a lot of people don't think about this. But if someone does have a slip and fall on a sidewalk and that homeowner is liable for it, like they would be under our code, if the sidewalk is not code compliant, that would be a problem. That could be a problem for them if that person is severely injured, because that'll be used against them if there's any lawsuit later down the road. So it should be repaired to code.
Okay, so I want to talk specifically about the curbs, because the curbs are actually where most of the safe sidewalks are not compliant with code. So if I go down this path of deciding I'm going to repair my sidewalk, and then code enforcement, I had a safe sidewalk before, I fixed a couple of pieces, code enforcement comes out and they apply the very strict standard of code. And they find that I need to actually replace all of the curbs, which is where most of the cost is actually. I need to replace all of the curbs. So now by trying to do the right thing, I can foresee a homeowner finding themselves in a situation where they made their sidewalk safer. Then they come back with code, and code says the curbs are not up to, they don't meet the exact height standards. You're going to have to replace all the curbs. And so now, instead of just fixing my sidewalk, I need to spend $10,000 on curbs. And I would be better off ignoring the information about my sidewalk. I'm just trying to work through some of the things, some of the not so good scenarios that may come out of this. And I just want to be clear as to what it is we're trying to accomplish. If we want people to take action, that's fine. Then it'll be worded in that way. If we're just giving them a heads up, that's fine. I also understand that if the city is aware, so let's say I have code come out and they come and they are aware of the fact that I have an unsafe sidewalk, I believe that might put the city at some risk because they are now aware of a deficient sidewalk.
It may put,
Right, unless they come back at me and write me up and start fining me, the city is now actually liable.
if there's written notice, it may put the city at risk. However, we also have a law in our charter that does place liability back on the homeowners. And that's actually worked for the city before. I've seen it work where even if there's, even if the city knew, they sent a letter out saying you're in defect. And I think Rob Perry actually sent this committee examples of when he sent those letters out. And that has been used as a defense and has stopped lawsuits against the city in other situations. With respect to the situation with the curbs, I think that it would be a good conversation to have either with Rob and Craig to talk about how it's been implemented before, because there have been, sidewalks that have been fixed using this permit process. What is the city actually implementing when it's doing that? And I think that's a good internal conversation to have.
That would be very good to know.
Yeah, and also, part of this notification, right? The charter does, a property owner ignoring, their responsibility isn't going to neglect their financial responsibility, especially if, the 22.18 of the charter, it gets implemented where, the commissioner of public works comes in and does that notification, the city does the repair, a property owner is still going to be on the hook for that financial, just because
Oops.
they ignore it isn't going to be a way for.
Dominic, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I missed part of it. Did you guys miss him too?
Yeah, I think you're cutting in and out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of weird. It must be my internet. How about now?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, basically what I was saying is that, part of that charter 22.18, does say that, it gets to a point that the DPW commissioner does have the power to, do the corrections. So a property owner ignoring, their responsibility, is not going to be, something that's, they're not going to be on the hook financially because they feel that it's going to be too expensive to do a curb or, whatever. So.
Dominic?
Yeah.
I'm looking at 2217, and it seems to me curb is actually separate from sidewalk by definition.
Right. So yeah, I think the curb cuts and also sidewalk, because there's I think it's a different code between the curb and the sidewalk. And also, the city has a little responsibility when it comes to a corner, I think, in terms of city responsibility, especially if it comes to certain areas of the city, from my understanding.
Wait, it's the right section, sorry.
Dominic, I don't know if you can see, but Malachi has had his hand up for a while.
2213.
I did too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Malachi.
Oh yeah, no, just in terms of, and maybe what Margaret was talking about, in terms of homeowners that may not be able to afford to get that fixed. We have something set in place to assist with that.
Not at present. That was the goal of the other, the long-term project we were discussing to.
Okay, I'm
But
sorry.
this is more just for immediate correction.
Dominic, can I say something?
Absolutely. I'm sorry. If anyone can see anybody with their hands up, please, let me know. But yeah, absolutely.
No problem. First of all, the whole thing about a couple of things, going back to Margaret's point about the letter, like what is the purpose of the letter? The way I envisioned this letter when I was thinking about it in the beginning about the water bill is that to inform the public, as you very well said, Dominic, but then we do need to have the purpose, the goal. What is the bottom line, in other words, of this letter? And the way I saw it, I viewed it, was to explain the public what's happening and give them a deadline, let's say the end of the year, to fix your sidewalk. Then during that time, we have an RFP where I hope Peter puts it together, where we figure out the company that can, who can actually repair the sidewalks, how much they're going to cost, and the financing, which in the past we had discussed, the financing. Then the slow months of January, February, March, I hope DPW and the code officer, they evaluate the sidewalks, which ones are done, which ones are not done. And then I was hoping to have like maybe a 3-year plan where each year we just do them, for each ward, we do the roads, the streets that need the most attention or the more traveled, and we go from there. I just feel tearing apart the whole city and trying to fix them all together, it can be overwhelming for all of us. And financially, I don't even know if we can afford it. But
yeah, I agree.
What I was hoping with this letter is that some people will take the initiative, let's just say 25%, they're going to say, okay, I'll do it myself because it's going to cost a lot more having the city do it. And then they'll tax me more or whatever other configuration we're going to figure out. The issue I'm having is the biggest, the most difficult thing to me to get by is safe versus unsafe sidewalk and the specifications of what is considered, correct sidewalk so we don't get sued. The resident doesn't get sued, the city doesn't get sued, everybody gets sued. And the part I don't understand is why did it ever change that 6-inch difference between of what it used to be and what it is now? Why did it ever happen? If most of the sidewalks are really, if we have an overwhelming amount of sidewalks that they are needs to be raised by 6 inches, and some of them are fairly good, do we let them go, or do we all have to fix them all? These are very important questions that we have to address. And my point of view, I mean, they don't need to be perfect. We're not going to have a red carpet here, but I mean, then is the law where you can never win with the law. You can be sued with being perfectly correct, So I don't know. That's my opinion. So
Well, I think there, and Crystal could help me out here in terms of putting a timetable on it. I don't know if it's a, a solid idea to do a timetable on the letter. I think the intent for this letter was, putting everybody on the same informational page. And some repairs might not have to do a full repair. It could be a grind down to be safe. It could be a patch to be safe. That all is determined on, the permit process and the exact, issue of that sidewalk. But Krista, there is a little concern about putting a time frame on it, right, for repair.
There is. So I would, I'd caution against giving them a deadline, because you don't want to give the impression that the city is not going to enforce during that time frame. If there's a bad enough sidewalk out there, the city may very well have to go in to enforce during that time frame. And that the long-term, the solution that you were talking about with the RFP and then handling it kind of section by section, that is exactly what was being envisioned, or what is envisioned with the sidewalk district. And it's a way to be able to tackle it long-term and spread the cost long-term over a series of years, based on doing an inventory as to which sidewalks really need it now versus really need it later. So that's exactly what was being looked at with that sidewalk district that you guys have been looking at for a couple of years now. And then, you brought up a very good point too about what is it safe or what is not safe? There's some subjectivity in there. And that's where, when we had the meeting with, Michael and Peter and Dominic and Craig, and Rob Perry had brought up a really good example of being able to use imagery. So he said he's got pictures of what a heave would look like, what an unsafe heave would look like. He's got pictures of, where it gets to that level that it really would need to be a repair. And that's what he's proposing to add into this notification letter, so that people have some idea of really when is it going to need to be repaired. And then, ideally what you would do too is you would be putting, hey, if you've got questions about this, please contact so-and-so or this department at this number and give them a call and talk to them about it. And that's really another great device of this, is just getting it more in front of the residents or the property owners' attention and inviting them to call the city to talk about, hey, is this a problem or isn't it a problem? How do I go about taking care of this?
Crystal?
Yep.
So if we don't have, I don't understand how this will work if we don't have a time. So we have it like open ending, indefinite.
Well, so that's where this is it's not a go out and fix your sidewalk. It's a, hey, you're a property owner in the city of Hudson, and we need to make sure that you're aware that you have this obligation, because there's probably a lot of property owners out there that actually don't. So it's reminding them that essentially ignorance of the law is not a defense. And hey, here, we're going to go ahead and show you, we're going to remind you, this is your obligation as a property owner. So it's not forcing the repair within a certain time frame. It's just reminding them what their responsibilities are, while the council and this committee decide how it wants to long-term address this problem.
Okay, so if we don't do that, can we at least, if we don't set a time when this whole thing ends, can we at least set a time when, not now, at some point with this committee, when we are going to take over and we're going to start plan B? Because people procrastinate. This is my experience. And they'll say, oh, I'll do it. And then, the minute we say we're going to do it, then we're going to obviously have like 1,000 people saying, oh, we're going to fix our sidewalk. But it's good I understand how the legal aspect of it, but maybe we should have a time and say, okay, we're starting the sidewalks, I'd like to see that.
The key, I think the key is to see how people react to this mailing, and to see what percentage actually correct their sidewalks. And if it gets a very poor response, that'll just, encourage us to speed up the other program.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's going to be poor to moderate, but I'd like us to have the contingent plan. That's all.
But just because we're sending out this notification and informing doesn't mean we stop what's in front of us, that code and DPW has, their process to correct, serious, so, I mean, life still goes on the other side of this, on sidewalks that are dangerous or need emergency repairs. I mean, there's a process for emergency repairs. I mean, I think the key is to, educate residents and have them do a self-inspection and say, okay, I got some time frame, or just say, wow, this is pretty bad. I need to address this, because, again, us, the district, I mean, there's a lot of pieces in play for that other plan. And meanwhile, there's going to be a lot of sidewalks that need attending to before that happens.
Okay, thanks, Dominic.
Is there any other thoughts on, so we're all good with, trying to, hey, Tom, you think you got the calendar in terms of, so we can kind of figure out, in May, because end of the month is probably gonna be too late. Plus, I think that's Memorial Day, holiday, our next scheduled. So is there a thought for, doing this a little, sooner, time, so Mike can get a time frame, for his side of it, and then we can meet to discuss what this looks like.
Well, you're actually, I think it was a mistake, but you were scheduled according to what went out today or yesterday, or Friday, to have a sidewalks meeting on the 17th at 5:30. Should we just?
Oh, okay. Well, whoa, cool. I guess I don't know. That's before the formal, right?
Correct.
Well, okay. It looks like if it works for everyone,
Yeah.
It works for me.
Just want to give you a heads up, Dominic, that I will be traveling that day. So let me think, am I traveling?
17th?
No, I'm actually coming back. I'm coming back during the daytime on the 18th. Yeah, but I will be leaving very early in the morning. So if I'm doing a meeting from England on the 17th, I will be up to like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I will have to leave at 7 in the morning. So that would be rather tricky. So if you have materials ahead of time that I can take a look at and give you my written comments, I'd be happy to do that, but I may not be able to make the meeting on the 17th.
okay. Yeah, as soon as, I'm sure Michael would give us something email ahead of time,
Yeah.
so we can look at it, and then, prior to the meeting, but I that works out. Everybody okay with the 17th?
I can just submit a written comment to the committee.
That gives you a pretty quick schedule to get that pamphlet ready.
Does that work with you, Mike? I don't want to put you out, Mike. Does that work okay with you?
I think it should be fine for me to prepare a draft by the 13th or the 16th. Happening before your meeting on the 17th.
And when do the mailers go out in June? What date?
There isn't a hard date, but it's like mid or late month.
So one thing, I don't know where you're planning on getting it printed, but one thing you may want to do, it does take a while to get printed.
No, that's all. DPW will handle it all.
Oh, good.
Isn't that what Rob said the other day, Dominic?
Yes, yeah, the printing and everything's, stuffing and everything's going to be done by DPW.
Yeah.
That's good.
Great. Okay, so is there any other thoughts for, kind of a new business for, I think putting this in front of us, getting this out, and then, readdressing some things, the next, meeting for some new business, but is anything that anybody has any questions or thoughts? Again, I will tell you that, the meeting, last week I thought was some, productive between Craig and, DPW commissioner. I hope that's going to open up some conversations, to do some internal conversations that could be productive, also. So I guess right now, I guess if no one else has, we'll open up briefly some public comment, if anyone has any public comment. I don't know if anybody can see anybody's hands raised or anything.
Dominic, you have, Bill has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Bill. What I'm gonna ask Bill, yeah,
Can you hear
and
me?
Bill, yeah, what I'm gonna ask Bill is, decorum, no attacks on any members. We're all here in a positive direction. Some things don't work as quick as things happen for some and others, but I will appreciate, you to address, your question in a productive way.
Well, it's a comment. It'll take about a minute or two. Many of you know from emails I send with pictures of the state of many sidewalks in town that are owned by the city of Hudson, contain tripping hazards. If I were a property owner, you still there?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. If I were a property owner and I got a letter from the city of Hudson reminding me of my responsibility to maintain a safe sidewalk and curb and all this, I would immediately go out with my camera and take pictures of the tripping hazard in front of the municipal parking lot on Union Street. It's one of the worst tripping hazards in the entire city of Hudson on city property. Rob Perry is well aware of it. He has been for years, although he denied that he knew about it last July at a meeting. I would walk over to any of the pocket parks on Warren Street and take pictures of all the hazards there. The holes, the cracks, the things that people are going to trip over, the place where roots have risen in the pavement, 500 block pocket park. I would walk across the street to the walkway that goes between the Warren Street sidewalk and the alley in the back by the municipal lot. And they take pictures of all the tripping hazards there, at least 5 or 6 of them. I'd go in front of City Hall and take a picture of the missing concrete around the gas valve that's been missing for 2 years and now has a cone over it. 2 years. I'd take as many pictures as I could, and I would send an email with a copy of the letter that was sent to me, and I'd say, "You can't be serious, can you?" That's all I have to say.
But Bill, I want to say I hear you better with the way you just had that conversation, and I appreciate you using decorum, and I hear you better, and I totally get what you're saying, and hopefully, we can have some, funding to do a lot of that. But yes, I totally understand what you're saying, and I really want to appreciate how you, put that across, and that shows, you at a different level, and I totally appreciate it.
I'd just like to add that the subject of my email would be hypocrisy.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other public comments or questions? Okay, if no one else on the committee has any thoughts, I want to thank again Michael for all his work on bringing a lot of this forward. And if I can have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Great. Can I second that? Get a
I'll second.
Great. Thanks, Amber. And thanks, everyone. Thanks, Tom. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Crystal. Bye, Ryan. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good job, Tom.